The Stanley. You might have heard of it. It's a hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, most famous for hosting a stay from Stephen King decades ago. Turns out he liked it so much he ended up using it as the inspiration for a book you have almost definitely heard of, The Shining. The story goes he came in the winter when the staff was already prepared to leave for the colder months. He ordered a few drinks in our huge, empty hotel, while the bartender served him ghost stories. A little while later, voila, here's Johnny. People come from all over the country hoping to find a ghost. My job is to tell you where to find them. I guide tours around the campus, telling people the rehearsed, memorized stories. Stories about women who laugh and dogs that curl into your bed at night. And I'm good at it. I started last autumn, but I took to the job quickly. I'll make scary faces, I'll make eye contact with you. I'll use old passages guests don't know about, popping out in front of you in places you didn't think I could be. A couple of weeks ago, I stayed overnight at the hotel for the first time. I worked a double. The room was available, and I had to open again the next day, so it just made sense. It was fun. The rooms are old, and there's a small gap at the top of the doors. At any other hotel, those would be complaints. But at the Stanley, it's part of the experience. You'll hear it all. Every creak of the floorboards, every door opening and closing, every doorknob twisting. It's all too easy to let your mind turn an insomniac neighbor into a ghost. And let's be honest, nobody comes to the Stanley for a good night's sleep. I haven't gone home since that night. Most of the employees are teens from Estes Park, looking for some extra cash on the weekends, so turnover is high. When my bosses saw me as the reliable worker I am, they gave me a standing offer to work whenever I want, so I've worked every day. The last building we visit on my tour is a tiny shamble building at the edge of the campus. It's not really supposed to be part of the experience. Often I'll skip it entirely, but on the tours where we moved a little too quickly and I needed something to fill the last few minutes of the hour the guests paid for, I'd pop in. It's a creaky old building that's been under construction for the entire time I've worked here. Even though I've never once seen crews come in or out of it, inside, a collection of old antiques welcomes you into the narrow entranceway from its only windowsill. Past that, a single hallway runs past two rooms, one on each side of the hallway, until it meets its end at a locked doorway. Broken old appliances and heaps of lumber and sawdust littered the old rooms. It was really nothing special, but the air pressure inside is strange, and sometimes that causes the doors to move, which is usually enough to warrant an ear-splitting shriek or two. I use that to make up some fun, spooky stories about it. The one that seems to perform the best is about a ghost who will lock the door from behind us from the outside. If that happens, don't panic, I'd say, tapping my radio. All I have to do is call somebody, and someone will come and let us out. There was a little truth to that. I don't have any keys to this building, and nobody locked it anyway. Funnily enough, though, someone did lock the door at the end of the hallway. I asked about the key once at the risk of having my secret tour stop discovered, but nobody even seemed to know what I was talking about. I always used to wonder what was in there that would be so important. My best guess was some kind of valuable movie memorabilia. I was wrong. Sometimes on my tours, while guests were taking pictures, people would tell me I had disappeared from their photos. And it was true. In a lot of the pictures people showed me, you could see a portion of a blurred half-transparent finger, or a portion of my face, or my clothing hiding in the background of their shots. Sometimes half my body would be there, and the other half vanished. It's easy enough to explain. Some of the cameras are still not so great at capturing motion, but guests at the Stanley live for that stuff, so I usually play into it. It wasn't easy to explain anymore. The first time I faced through an object, I was reading, and when I tried to turn the page, I missed. That's all it was, a mild private embarrassment highlighting a severe lack of depth perception. A silly and forgettable moment until I missed it again a second later. Then again. No matter how many times I tried to pinch the page, I would watch the tip of my index finger pass through the page. I blamed it on sleep deprivation at first, but the more it happened, the more I struggled to find rational explanations. Forks, hairbrushes, makeup. More and more things were falling out of my grasp, through my fingers, through my hands even. Everything culminated about 2 mornings ago when I couldn't grab the doorknob to leave my room. I convinced myself I was losing my mind. Convinced all I needed was to focus harder. Just grab the damn doorknob. But each time my hand would pass right through it like I was missed. In a moment of frustration and exhaustion, I screamed and banged my fist against the door. I passed right through it. I nearly toppled down the stairs just outside my room. I looked back. The door was still closed. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't. I didn't want to. Ghosts aren't real. I told my boss that afternoon that day would be my last for a while. I needed a break. I needed time away from the hotel. Some fresh air somewhere warmer for a while, maybe. My ability to grab things came and went throughout the day. I started encouraging the guests to open the doors themselves. They liked it. It added to the scare if they had to lead themselves through the passages. They had no idea it was because I was too scared to find out if I could open the door myself. That evening, at the end of the last tour of the night, we ended at that old rundown house. It was the first time I had been there that day. It's common for my tours to end there at night, probably because I am antsy to be done for the day and rush the later tours. I hadn't been able to grab anything the entire tour. I was letting the last few lingering tourists out of the building when the door at the end of the hall caught my eye. I couldn't help it. I had to know. My heart beat faster as I took my first step towards the door. I don't know why. I had been in that room 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times. But this felt different. Was I about to discover the last secret of the Stanley Hotel? Did I even want to know? I took a few more steps, passing the first doorway on the left. The door slammed shut. I screamed. Damn it, pull yourself together! I resisted an impulse to slap myself for no other reason than to imitate the cartoons I watched as a kid. I passed the next doorway, braced for it to close at any second. Nothing. I glanced in as I passed it. Piles of junk appliances and strips of plywood plastered flickering silhouettes of imaginary monsters onto the drywall. My eyes turned and focused on the last door. The room was silent, not even a single creak from the floorboards beneath my feet. I reached the door and raised a hand, stretching a single finger towards the top lock. The tip passed right through. I held in a gasp and pushed my finger further into the doorway. Soon my entire finger vanished behind the metal door. I couldn't resist. I pushed further. My hand followed, then my wrist, then my arm. As far as I could manage, I took a step. My foot passed through it as well. Another step and I was through. The room was completely dark. I could make out a few shapes, a series of lumps that looked like piled boxes around the floor. Something stuck out in front of them, something long. I bent down closer. My eyes slowly adjusted to the dark. I could make out a few more details. Legs. Human legs. My stomach caught in my throat. I followed the limbs up higher with my eyes. The torso slumped at a severe angle. trying to collapse fully onto the floor, but half caught on the boxes behind it. Then I saw his face and I screamed. Not because she was dead, but because he was me.